Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we've got something new and special. It is the all-new 2023 Dodge Hornet, and this is a GT Plus, fully loaded. And it's special because it's the first new Dodge in, well, it seems like decades. So we're gonna have a good look at it inside now. We're gonna take it for a drive out here on my favorite back road, and then I'm gonna tell you what I really think. All right, my friends, so what we've got here is the 2023 Alfa Romeo, it's the Dodge Hornet. Sorry about that. A little bit of a slip of the tongue, but the reality is the 2023 Dodge Hornet is exactly the same vehicle as the 2023 Alfa Romeo Tonale. They're both built in Italy on the same assembly line, and they both share virtually every nut and bolt, except for that the Dodge has the Dodge styling and marketing treatment, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, would you rather have a Dodge that's also the Alfa Romeo that costs more? Or would you rather have the expensive Alfa Romeo that's also the cheap Dodge? So looking at the styling, there are some differences. Up front, this has a Dodge face on it, and that includes quite a bit. You've got a unique Dodge grille with a familiar logo, and it looks a lot like you might find on a Dodge Durango or even a Dodge Charger. Look at the hood. It's got the air extractor vents there, a unique hood for this. And coming around to the fender is the Hornet. The little logo there, it looks like a pretty angry bee, right? Kind of cute, I think. Now this has a lot of options on it, and so as such, the price on this one, $43,000 and some change. This is about the most you can spend on this vehicle. This has the blacktop package, it has the tech package, and this also has what's known as the track package, which I think is kind of absurd on an SUV, don't you? The track package, but that means something. It's got these big 20-inch wheels. It's got the bigger Brembo 4-piston calipers in red. So it's got upgraded brakes. It's got an upgraded adjustable suspension. Another option this has is the big, large sunroof at the top. Now, it's not a full panoramic roof, but this big section does open. So it's an opening sunroof that's sort of a medium in between a regular sunroof and a pano roof. It's kind of a nice little touch. And some additional options. This color, gray cray. Funny name there. It's optional. Yes, charcoal is an option. So they really stacked it up in terms of what this vehicle cost. But coming down the side, you would have a hard time breaking this apart from an Alfa Romeo Tonale in a parking lot, and even at the rear three-quarter view, you can see they're very similar, save for the taillight and a couple trim design treatments. It is a pleasing design. As I've been out driving it this week with a lot of my friends looking at it, a lot of people, more than normal, have been coming up and going, hey, what's this? So it is eye-catching. It does look different than a lot of what you can find out there, and size-wise, it is a compact SUV. It's about 2 inches smaller in length than, for instance, a Toyota RAV4 and a Ford Escape. So it is in that compact area that's a little bit smaller than most of its competitors out there. The interior of the Hornet is a place that if you've sat in an Alfa Romeo Tonale, you're probably going to go, wow, this is a lot like that. And that's because it is. It's virtually identical. The only really big difference is that for the Dodge, they've given it a slightly different dash above the belt line. But because this is made by Alfa Romeo and it is made in Italy, if you spend a lot of time in contemporary Dodge vehicles, you're going to sit in this thing and go, wow, this is completely different. It's like it's from a different planet. And that's because it is, quite literally. Everything is different. It's a lot like those days when Mitsubishi used to put the Dodge badge on vehicles in the 80s and send them over, and people would sit in these things and go, wow, this is not like my Dodge Aries K. And that's because the switchgear is entirely and completely different. The way the trim is made, all of the parts and pieces. There's nothing in here that is going to look and feel like anything you've ever sat in that's had the Dodge emblem on it. And dare I say it, it's kind of a good thing. The quality of the switchgear in here is European. The sophistication level that's here in the way everything's put together and the way everything is laid out is European. And, you know, for this driver, that's a good thing. Now, this vehicle we have here being fully loaded, this is a track pack. It has all of the bells and whistles. I've got these beautiful sport seats with the Alcantara trim and red accents on them. They are power adjustable for the driver and the passenger, and I do have memory settings here on the driver's side. They're very firm, as a European sport seat would be. Now as I sit here, it's a very European driving position. Nice firm steering wheel in my hands, and ahead of me a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. And I will note that there is missing paddle shifters here. That's something I would expect with all the high performance sportiness that they're presenting us in this vehicle. Just not a big deal for me personally. I never use them, but it is interesting that they're missing. There is a sport button on the steering wheel though, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get for a drive. In the center is a 10.25-inch infotainment screen. Below that, a nice bank of hard controls for the HVAC. And this console, the console has a big cubby down in front for your phone, and I don't know if it's made for American phones or what the story is. It's a place that's got a charger down here, but the way it's designed, it's weird. It's hard to actually get a phone down in there very easily. So a little bit of a design flaw there. Start engine button right there, ports for everything, and the button for the engine idle start stop. A traditional shifter, which I love, and volume control, and the parking brake here, which we'll talk about as well here pretty soon. And then cup holders back behind it. They're sit down low, so you can have big gas station cups and they're not going to be in your way. Center console storage, not very big. You would not really even be able to put a square tissue box in here. It's about half the size of what that would take, but you can put a phone and some glasses and a few other things down in there, no problem. Above me is a pretty good sized sunroof. It's not what I would call a panoramic sunroof, but it does have an opening section, and it does provide a little bit of light to the back seat as well. I'm sitting back here in the back seat now, and I've just been reminded that this is a compact SUV. It's not quite as, you know, spacious and roomy. This actually feels a lot like the back seat of a compact hatchback or car, and that's ultimately because that's what we're sitting in. You know, this just happens to be tall. So that said, as you can see, these seats are set for my height, about 5'8", with my tennis shoes on. I've got about 1 inch of knee room ahead of me. If somebody that was a 6-footer was sitting in this chair in front of me, I would probably have this chair up against my knees. The seating height is good, and so I'm not sitting down in a hole, luckily, and that is a saving grace. But I will say that the seats are not really shaped for a human being. They're flat like a bench, and they're not angled in such a way where I feel like I'm sitting in it. I feel like I'm kind of sitting on this little platform. There are some amenities back here, thankfully, since it's 100+ degrees here in Phoenix. I've got air vents back here, and there are some USB ports for charging. Now the seat, this is very much more like we'd expect in a European car. It does fold down in a 60-40 split, but there's also a pass-through door there that is perfect for skis or ski poles or something like that. It also, of course, has a fold-down armrest, which when I have this down and you look there, you can see that pass-through from this side. And you could open that from the inside or for the back. But this seat does fold down in that 60-40 split, giving you a flat load floor and a pretty big cargo hold back there for a compact SUV. Now, because this does have the track pack, it does not have the actual spare tire that some of the other models of the Hornet have. So when we get into the high performance territory with most vehicles, you tend to lose that spare just because of the brake size not meshing with the mini spares that most of the cars provide. Overall, this is an interior that I do find very comfortable. I do find a few little quirks in here that I tend to associate with Italian brands. I hate to say that, but it's true. Anyone that's ever been in an Italian car of any kind never walked away without saying, that's quirky, right? And it's got some Italian car quirks. Things like, you know, they put a place in here for a phone, but you can't actually really easily put a phone in it. Not very much storage, and the way the controls and the switchgear are laid out aren't anything like what most Dodge customers are going to expect. There's going to be a learning curve here. There's just little things here that are different from what we expect in an American car, but the comfort for the most part is good, and the quality actually in here, the fit and finish, is good. This interior gets 4 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is the top of the line with Uconnect 5, and it's a 10.25-inch screen. And basically it's got all of the features we'd want. It's got Harman Kardon audio, 14 speakers, 465 watts, and it's got plenty of colorful graphics. What I will point out is this is not like the Uconnect systems you're going to find in any of the contemporary Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep products. This is a different animal. This comes from the Alfa Romeo tree, not the Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler tree, and so the menus are different. The structure of all the controls are different. What you can and can't do is different. It's got a learning curve. And so what I did find out in my week with this is that the audio quality is quite good, and the graphics are good, but using the menus a little bit more binary than some of the Uconnect systems you'd find in contemporary American products from the company, meaning that it's a little bit more, you know, dig down 2 or 3 levels to do this and that. And there's actually not as many controls for some things as one might expect. A volume control is down here on the center console. There's one on the steering wheel and a few other little controls, but there aren't very many hard controls, which I always find a little bit of a bummer, especially when you have to dig into menus to do a lot of different things. One other little difficulty I found this week is it's very hot here in Phoenix this week. When it gets hot, this thing really slows down. You start touching the buttons and it can take seconds sometimes for it to actually react when it's hot. So this system wasn't designed for our heat, I don't think, but it's got a great 360-degree monitor that you can see when you go into reverse and use those cameras as a part of the option package, the tech package to be precise. Overall, this is a system that just really, I think my big takeaway is that it really has a learning curve. It's got plenty of feature content, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, those are wireless. It's got Alexa, Amazon capability. So they've put a lot of bells and whistles in here and it sounds great. The system gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, are we ready to take a drive? Let's do it. This is based on the Alfa Romeo Tonale. We've said that already, but that's a good thing when it comes to chassis. It's a very sharp and precise European chassis, and this has a McPherson strut front suspension, and it has what's called a Chapman strut independent rear suspension. And what that basically means is that it's not the full-blown multi-link setup like some of the competitors have. It's a little bit simpler, but it's not as dumbed down as, say, a twist beam like you'll find in Mazda, Volkswagen, and a few of the other competitors out there. That means turning is sharp and precise. It's not like an American car, cattle guard, when it comes to handling. And because we have the track package on this one, it's got more. It's got these big 20-inch tires with low-profile tires. It has more powerful Brembo brakes, and this has an adjustable suspension. When you set it to sport on the driving mode, these Morelli adjustable shocks have 2 different settings, normal and sport, and it gets substantially stiffer. And so out here on my back road, that really gives a completely different feel to the handling, which is surprising in an SUV. And as I said at the beginning, the idea of a track pack in an SUV is a little bit absurd, but it does pay some dividends out here on a back road, though I probably still wouldn't be seen taking this to a track on a track day weekend event. So that said, out here at speed on the highway, this has a lot of stability. It feels very sharp and sporting. I will say that it's pretty noisy. On our 70-mile-an-hour decibel test, this measured in at 67.1 decibels. That is the highest reading I have ever seen in any vehicle I have ever tested. Average is like 59 to 61. So it's loud, and it's all about road noise, okay? So maybe not as much sound deadening as we might like. But does it corner? Yes. Yes, it does. Now, those are some of the good things. I do find, though, around town, over speed bumps, manhole covers, the speed humps that I have in the city, the suspension is a little bit clunky and disjointed. It's not quite as precise and European feeling there as it is out here. In fact, living with it in town, it was pretty unenjoyable, if I'm honest. It just lacks a lot of refinement there that maybe it's just compromised. It's made to handle cattle guard really nicely out here on the open road, but around town it's just a little bit on the uncomfortable side, if I'm honest. So this chassis is kind of a mixed bag. It gets 3 out of 5 stars. Now we need to talk about the powertrain. What's under the hood is actually something that's mostly good. 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, they call it Hurricane 4. It has 268 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. This has all-wheel drive, and this is mated to FCA Stellantis Chrysler's favorite 9-speed automatic transmission, which can be good or bad, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But if you watch my videos, you know the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we're going to come to a complete stop. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody out here but the squirrels and us. We're in sport mode, and we're going to go. Okay, a little bit of lag, but then it takes off. And 60. Not bad. You notice it's very refined, not a lot of drama there. Now, Dodge tells us 6.5 seconds from 0 to 60. I got to slow down, I got a corner coming up. This is an SUV, not a sports car. 6.5 seconds from 0 to 60. Now, my time you saw on the screen might not quite have matched that, but it is 100 degrees out here. The air conditioner's on, and I've got my camera crew in the back seat with me. So that always plays into those calculations. So the upshots here is this is a very refined engine. It revs out very smoothly, very nicely, very little turbo lag. The only lag that exists is the computer and the drive-by-wire throttle, but it does deliver power quite prodigiously when you ask for it. And these brakes do work pretty good as well. Now, auto start stop. Not big news, a lot of vehicles have it. This has it, yuck. And of course it defaults on every time you start the car. The problem with this auto start stop is it's very aggressive. It doesn't care if it's 110 degrees outside. It will still turn the engine off. It will still let the air conditioning go warm. And it's not that quick to turn back on. So another thing that I found very annoying driving this vehicle this week was the air conditioner going stale and warm every time I came to a stop. Don't like it. And the thing is, it's all about saving fuel. And so what is the fuel economy on this? 21 city, 29 highway, 24 MPG combined. That's what the EPA says. In my week with it, I got about 20. So that really, my average combined didn't really even hit where it says the city should be. And in fairness, 100 plus degrees, air conditioning, so always take that with a grain of salt. The only other last thing I want to talk about is this 9-speed automatic transmission. They have improved this. When it first came out, a little over a decade ago, it was an awful box of rocks. It just was awful, the worst transmission in the world for most auto journalists, if they would talk about it honestly. But over the generations, they've improved it with software and hardware. They've made it better. But this one, for some reason, feels like it's gone back a few steps. It shifts one way on some gears and another way on others. It's unpredictable. Out here on the back road, it's been pretty good, but around town, it's clunky, it makes noise, and it just does a lot of unpredictable things that are, guess what, annoying AF. So there seems to be a theme going on here with this test drive. Nonetheless, this powertrain, both good and its bad, gets 3 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, now for the final analysis. We've looked at it inside now, we've driven it, we've talked about some of its good and its bad. And in the overall picture, I think the big takeaway that I need to really present to you out there, if you're looking at this vehicle, is that this is not your everyday Dodge, okay? If you've driven other Dodge models in the past 10 or 15 years, this is a completely different animal. This is an Alfa Romeo. This is different, okay? It's made in Italy, it's cut from a different cloth, everything inside's different, everything works different, and this is one parental vehicle. And by that I mean there is a mother-in-law in the back seat that is tapping you on the shoulder and in your face at all times. And it's got a headlight alarm that comes on every time you shut the car off at night and warns you, oh my God, you left your headlights on, never mind they're automatic and they're going to turn themselves off. It's like they didn't think of that. It's got auto start stop. That's the most aggressive that I've ever experienced. Okay, and so you'll come to a stoplight at 110 degrees and it turns the engine and the air conditioner off. Annoying AF. Yes, there's an off switch, but you have to do that every time you start the car. And so that colors my overall interpretation value and competitiveness. So warranty coverage, class average, nothing special here, and it is a Chrysler product. So, you know, you want to buy the extended warranty if you actually buy this thing, made in Italy or not. It is a little bit better than the average Dodge, but still, you know, buyer beware. And, you know, the price, this one, $43,000, that's a lot. I think if $30,000, we might be more reasonable for this vehicle. I'd hate to look at 40 or 50 or close to 60 for the Alfa Romeo and be getting the exact same thing, if I'm honest, but I digress. In the final analysis, I put value and competitiveness at 3 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 3.5 stars for the review. Honestly, not the best score out there. Most cars are in that 4, 4.5, and even sometimes 5 range. This is a car that I would suggest that you really just need to love the way it looks and love the way it drives to put up with all of the other little eccentricities that it has. So there you go. My review for the 2023 Alfa Romeo, the Dodge Hornet. So there you go. If you like what we do here, you can see our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.